Hey folks, welcome back to Naman Reviews. I am very excited for this one as I am a huge fan of Heath Ledger's Joker. In fact, Hot Toys DX11 was one of the toys that got me into collecting 1/6 scale figures. So I can't wait to see what improvements Hot Toys has made over DX11, which is of course a very old figure now. And frankly, what improvements they made over InArt's Joker. So today we're going to unbox and review Hot Toys DX33. We'll also compare with DX11 and the InArt Joker 2-pack. And we'll also compare the sculpt with the DX32 sculpt, which is of course the molded hair version. DX32, of course, I will review later for sure. We'll also do some fun poses and settle on a final score. But before we continue, may I request that you tap those like and subscribe buttons to support my channel. Here we have the front of the box. In terms of build quality, I do not like these new DX boxes. The older ones, the cardboard was much nicer and it was magnetic so you can open it up. It was classier, and these feel quite a bit cheaper by Hot Toys. Feels like they've taken some cost-cutting measures with the new DX boxes, and I was hoping that it would go back to the old boxes, especially because these are the new Artisan figures. But no, we still have this new style of boxes where the boxes do feel a bit cheap. That being said, the art direction of the boxes is absolutely gorgeous. You've got the purple, green, and orange aesthetic, which matches, of course, the Joker. In the background, you've got Heath Ledger's Joker. I don't think that is the toy. I don't think the sculpt is that good. You've also got some ha-has in the background. Some of them are more subtle than the others. You've got some branding at the base. Up top says Sideshow exclusive. And in the center, again, you've got some branding for the Dark Knight trilogy. And even though I am a bit disappointed by the new boxes, I do like how shiny this is. This side of the box is the outer box, and I love the deep purple up top, and it's a gradient, flows down to a lighter purple, all very shiny, of course, up top. And down below, you've got some branding. Right in the center, you've got that Joker symbol. The design on this side of the box is almost the same as the other side. Of course, the coloring is different. That side was purple, and this side is green because this is the inner box. We're going to pull this out. The back of the box is a bit shinier than the front. You've got a lot of ha-has. A lot of them are shining under the light. Over here, you have some warnings, some legalese, and some branding up top. I must admit, the box does feel quite nice, and I like the raised nature of the ha-ha text. I could feel this all day. Anyway, that's enough time admiring this box. Let's get this open. Once you open the box, you're treated to this insert, and this is of course not the actor, this is the toy. I hope it looks a bit better than this. Kind of looks like someone who just stepped out of the shower and her mascara is dripping and doesn't look like the Joker, at least in these pictures. There's some text here. You can read it if you want. Just pause it right now. On one side of the box, it says, "Let's put a smile on that face." And on this side, we have some branding. Here we have the manual, which we will look at in detail in a little bit of time. We've got a insert. There is the head sculpt, there is the body. Wow. So we're going to look at everything in great detail, but I just want to have a quick peek at the body and of course the head sculpt. The weight of the body feels a bit light compared to InArt, which is fine. But the quality of the joints does not feel as good, at least on first impressions. But again, it is serviceable. The hands, plastic quality paint applications, not as good as InArt, which is fine again. They are still serviceable. My biggest criticism for the purple coats on both InArt and Hot Toys Joker bodies has been that there has not been enough wear on the body. If you remember the mob scene, his coat does not look pristine. There is plenty of wear, and I'm glad that Hot Toys has done that with this coat here. However, I think Hot Toys has gone a bit too far. The wear on this is just awful. It does not look natural at all, and there's no subtlety at all. And again, it's just like a perfect L over here. There's a perfect L over here. This sleeve and this sleeve is also perfectly symmetrical. Perfect symmetry over here too. It's just kind of ridiculous. And it's very hard to unsee once you spot it. I can imagine what happened here. They've added some plates and then sprayed some dust color on it. They've just done such a horrible job with it. Look at how symmetrical this is. Said the material does not feel nearly as luxurious as the InArt body. Just on first impressions, one area where the Hot Toys version does seem to be superior to the InArt version, and we will look at that more deeply later, is that the coloring of the pants seems to be more accurate to the film. This has more purple in it, like it should, and the InArt version is just way too gray. The other thing is that the lining over here, don't quite match in terms of coloring. This is a slightly brighter color. And again, that is accurate to how it was for Joker. And for the InArt version, these two linings are the same color of orange, which is incorrect. Time to look at the sculpt. All right, this, I must admit, is the best 1/6 scale mass market Heath Ledger Joker sculpt. That is a stunning sculpt. There have been some complaints about the rooting on the hairline especially. Some people have had good ones, others have had not so good ones, but I think I'm lucky. I've got a pretty good one here. Side profile is very good. Paint applications, outstanding. We are definitely going to have to put this next to the InArt version to see where this one is better. But so far, I am very impressed. I think the prototype's hairline was not as pronounced, and that was a bit of a criticism because Heath Ledger's hairline was similar to this, but the prototype was more even. But I think they have improved it in that regard as well. My biggest criticism of the InArt version of this Joker is that they used way too much glue on the hair. But I think Hot Toys has found the right balance. It's definitely been styled. They've definitely used some glue here, but not excessively. Well, we're going to look at everything in more detail soon, but first impressions are very positive of the sculpt. I took a quick look at the weapons, the body. I have to say, in every other area, just on first impressions, InArt is the winner. But when it comes to the sculpt, which you can argue is the main selling point of any figure, especially something so expensive, Hot Toys wins. Always a good idea to read the instruction sheet before you play with your expensive collectible, just to know how to articulate it correctly and use the accessories correctly. First page has some warnings, some legalese, tells you how to get the head sculpt out, how to manipulate the eyes, how to attach the tongue. Wow, in order to attach the head sculpt, it wants you to disrobe him, take off the coat, and do all sorts of complex stuff with the collar. Here it tells you how to attach the grenades, including the pins. I am just going to skip the pins. Use the machine gun, use the shotgun, switchblade, and this tells you how to assemble the base, and you can light it up too. So that's the manual. Not nearly as classy as something that InArt would give us, but this is Hot Toys. They always look to cut costs. What we're going to do now is do a Hot Toys versus InArt accessory comparison. These are a couple of tools you get with Hot Toys, and they are very useful. You don't get any tools with InArt, unfortunately. This one is particularly useful because it helps manipulate the eyes, and actually you don't need it for InArt because the eyes on the InArt toy are very easy to manipulate, but on the Artisan Hot Toy Joker, the eyes are very challenging to manipulate, and you definitely need this. These tweezers turned out to be quite useful. I wish that InArt had included them because their head sculpt is kind of bigger at the neck, so you do need tweezers to adjust the collar. In fact, I would say that I use these tweezers right now more for InArt's Joker than Hot Toys Joker. On the left, you have the Hot Toys grenades. On the right, you have the InArt grenades. And like most of the accessories, the InArt grenades are much higher quality. So much more detail, better plastic. These just look cheaper. The only advantage these grenades have is that the color accuracy is better. The olive green color is more accurate to what we saw on film, and even the string is the right shade of purple. I don't know why Hot Toys is beating InArt in terms of coloring, but they are more color accurate for quite a few things. The only thing is that these grenades are much harder to put on than the InArt grenades because this hook is pretty big, but this is kind of tiny. The grenades also come with these tiny pins, and I'm not going to put them on the grenades. I am not insane. On the left, we have the cash and cards accessory by Hot Toys. On the right, we have the cash and cards accessory by InArt. And these are adequate, but these are outstanding. Much better quality material, much better quality printing. Cards look absolutely gorgeous. Some of the printing is kind of fading on this. It's just much better here. And much more cash. That being said, I do like the fact that this is Joker's version of the cash. As you can see, it has been defaced to look like the Joker. On the left, you have the Hot Toys hands. On the right, you have the InArt hands. And they're both high quality, but again, InArt is just a bit higher. These actually look like rubber gloves. Of course, they're plastic, and these just look like toys. You will notice that these are shinier. I don't know why they went with that aesthetic, but that is the choice they made. Another advantage with InArt is that you get these beautiful seamless hands, and you don't get anything like this with Hot Toys. Of course, the other difference is that InArt has a magnetic system for the hands, while Hot Toys uses the old-fashioned peg system. And while in theory magnet sounds pretty good, these magnets don't seem to have much effect. On the left, you have the Hot Toys machine gun, switchblade, handgun, magazine, and on the right, you have the InArt version of these. And these are adequate, but these are just so much more higher quality. Beautifully painted, lovely detailing. These feel kind of cheap by comparison, especially because some of these are die cast. Unfortunately, die cast is not very practical because the Joker's hand keeps falling down when you're holding that heavy gun. Still, I would prefer these weapons over these any day just because of the gorgeous detailing. However, if you like a lot of weapons, then you will like Hot Toys because they have a pencil, they have blades for the shoes, and of course they also have this shotgun, really nicely detailed, nice wood grain finish, some dry brushing on the metallic part of the shotgun. I believe Joker used this gun when he raided Bruce Wayne's charity party. And this is an iconic weapon. I wish that InArt had given us this. There's no doubt in my mind that the Hot Toys base is superior to the InArt base in just about every way. This does have magnets, but they don't seem to work really well. And the fonts on the InArt base are just awful. I don't know where they got these fonts from. On the other hand, the Hot Toys base is very high quality, nicely painted. I love the scene. This reminds me of the part where the Joker says, "Hit me," to Batman. You can see some stones over here too. Looks like broken pavement. And of course, there is the bat symbol in the center. It lights up. There are 3 light up modes for this. Once you connect the USB cord to a charger, simply press this button here. Lights up. It's kind of a slow light up. And it's off. Lights up again. Let's just turn off the lights to see how this looks. Wow, that is very cool. Time for some sculpt comparisons. Here is the Artisan sculpt. Next to it are the 2 DX11 sculpts, followed by the Hot Toys Bank Robber 2.0, and finally the 2 InArt Joker sculpts. There's really no contest between the Hot Toys Artisan sculpt and other mass market sculpts. Here we have DX11, and as you can see, huge improvement over the last 10 years. between the technology and the paint applications, the mold, everything is superior, but DX11, the default sculpt, was quite nice for its time. It's a pity that we only get 2 sculpts now, because this Laughing Joker sculpt with DX11 was quite popular back in the day. And even though it was nice, you can tell that technology has come a long way since then. Just simply the paint applications and the likeness to Heath Ledger is such a big improvement on the new Artisan Joker sculpt. Bank Robber 2.0 by Hot Toys was such an underrated sculpt. It still holds its own. It might not be good as the new Artisan sculpt, but I think it looks fantastic. It's interesting how the InArt sculpt set a new standard for mass-produced Joker sculpts a few years ago, but now the Artisan sculpt, I think, is just so much better. The mold, the likeness, all superior. However, where the InArt Joker shines is the hair. In my opinion, the hair is better quality. The connection to the head is also better quality. Artisan's hair feels like it's going to come off at any time. I also think the hairline on InArt is a little bit better, though Artisan still does a good job with that hairline. While I do understand that the InArt sculpt is from the mob scene where the makeup is caked on very thick, I think the paint applications are just a bit too bright on the InArt Joker, and there is some nuance, some subtlety on the Artisan version of the paint applications. I actually like this alternative version of the InArt sculpt more with the smirk, but let's look at that side profile. I think InArt has done a good job with the side profile. The face is flat like Heath Ledger's face was, whereas the Artisan version, I think the cheekbones and jawline are just a touch too pronounced. Still, overall, again, the Artisan sculpt is the winner in terms of the mold and the paint applications.
It's time to compare the DX33 head sculpt with the DX32 head sculpt. Of course, DX33 is the glued hair version and DX32 is the molded hair version. And if for some reason you missed out on DX33, I don't think you'll be disappointed by DX32 at all. These sculpts are the exact same. The only difference, of course, is that this is molded hair and this is glued on wool hair. And as I said, Hot Toys has done an incredible job with that molded hair. Looks outstanding. I still prefer this wool hair, but DX32 holds its own. I think the biggest advantage of DX32 over DX33 is that DX32 has more durability. There have been some complaints that DX33 is shedding hair, and I think DX32 will last you a long time. And this, I don't know, might go bald.
Time to compare DX33 with DX11 under the portrait lens. Again, DX33 has this superior head sculpt, as you would expect so many years later. Better paint applications, better mold, hair looks better, coloring is better. Everything is just about better, though I do like that little smirk on the face of DX11. The coloring on the tie on DX11 is actually superior to what we get with DX33. I don't know why they made that mistake where the yellow color is missing on the DX33 tie. In addition, the length of the pants is correct on DX11, where it's a bit short on DX33 for some reason. However, just about every other piece of soft good is superior on DX33. The coat, the pants, coloring, and fitting, all very screen accurate compared to DX11. Especially if you look at the shoulders, they are the right level of broadness, whereas they're kind of droopy on DX11. In addition, I love that the coat on DX33 is wired, so you can enjoy some fun posing, though that wear they've given to that coat, again, is a bit of an eyesore. Time to compare DX33 with InArt's Joker, and when InArt's Joker came out, it was mind-blowing. Even now, InArt Joker, which is on the right, is superior in terms of the quality of these soft goods. InArt also does a better job with the hair gluing, the color of the tie, the weathering on the coat, and the length of the pants. For some reason, Hot Toys pants are a bit too high and you can always see the ankles. But that's where Hot Toys starts to win. For starters, the sculpt is clearly superior, even though InArt sculpt looks really good here. The shoulders on the Hot Toys coat are broader, more fitted, and more screen accurate. Likewise, the collars on Hot Toys are more screen accurate and they're higher, whereas on InArt, they're kind of pushed down and they're hard to lift. Where Hot Toys really wins is in terms of the fitting of the coat and the coloring, both more accurate than what InArt gave us. The pants are the right shade of purple. I don't know why they're so dark on InArt. The shoes on Hot Toys are the right shade of beige, whereas on InArt, they're just too dark, just like the pants and just like the coat. And as I showed you earlier during the unboxing, the inner lining color of the coat and the inner coat are more accurate by Hot Toys, whereas they are just the wrong color by InArt for some reason. This isn't to say that InArt's figure is suddenly very bad. In fact, from the side, I think that mold looks a bit better. But overall, Hot Toys is the winner, and it should be, considering that it has released a product years after InArt. The cool thing is that you can probably get a really good deal on the InArt Joker 2-pack, and you'll definitely get more value with InArt, considering you get 2 figures and you get that die-cast jail cell diorama, which is absolutely gorgeous. Time to look at the articulation, which I suspect is outstanding. Head turns quite freely, looks up, looks down really nicely. Shoulder, I suspect, is going to be held back by the coat, but goes up okay. Rotates forward, could rotate more, but the coat is holding it back. Rotates back. Double jointed elbow, very nice. Of course, the shoulder shrugs and lifts. Hand rotates quite freely. Cut at the bicep for some turn. So is there a diaphragm joint? I don't think so, but there is an ab crunch. Waist twists. Leg kicks forward. Leg kicks back. Nice double jointed knee. Thighs rotate. Ankle turns. No cut at the toe for aesthetic reasons, but that is, I think, a good choice. Overall, the articulation is outstanding. If you take off the coat, you'll get even better articulation. I'll give it a thumbs up. While we're on the subject of articulation, let's check out how to manipulate the eyes and how to remove the teeth and add the tongue. So simply turn it around, lift the hair, and this base is magnetic. Change the eyes around and you can take out the teeth and add the tongue. Here he is with his tongue out. Looks okay, I guess. Not particularly impressed with this feature. I don't think I'm going to ever use it. But it is interesting to have. I think they could have done a better job with it because the tongue looks a bit awkward in his mouth. Now that we've seen the articulation and accessories, it's time to take Hot Toys Artisan Joker to the toy room for some fun poses. Time for some size comparisons, and once again, let's compare Artisan Joker to the rooted hair InArt Joker, but this time let's compare both of them. And I just think the Hot Toys Joker is not a clear winner, though it does have the superior head sculpt, but these two sculpts are also quite nice. depending on the angle. Of course, this one looks good from just about every angle, and these two you have to kind of tilt them, angle them, and then suddenly they look a lot like Heath Ledger. Ultimately, Hot Toys does have the edge because the most important part of a 1/6 scale collectible is the head sculpt, and the Artisan sculpt is superior, no doubt, to the InArt ones. Now on the right, we have InArt Batman. This is Robert Pattinson's Batman, and of course, these two versions of these characters are unfortunately never going to meet, but they do display well together. They do look good together on the shelf. Now we have Suicide Squad Batman on the right, and I don't particularly like Ben Affleck's Batman, but I love this Hot Toys figure. It is just such a beast and looks amazing on the shelf, and these two kind of display well together. Now we have InArt Superman on the right, and of course these universes don't make sense together, but they do display well together. Now we have Selena Kyle 2.0 by Hot Toys on the right. The head sculpt is much improved over the last version of this character, but still not perfect. I think these two display pretty nicely together because they are from the same universe. Now we have Two-Face 2.0 by Hot Toys on the right, and he looks a bit undersized compared to this new Joker figure. Now we have one of the best figures Hot Toys has ever made. This is DX89 Joker, still going strong. That head sculpt still looks really good, though the knees on mine have gotten quite loose. Finally, we have Hot Toys The Dark Knight Rises Armory Batman on the right. In the center, we have Bruce Wayne, and these three display very nicely together. It is a pity that Heath Ledger passed away when he did. It would have been interesting to see what role he would have had in The Dark Knight Rises. Interestingly, this new Hot Toys Joker is slightly taller than these already oversized figures in my opinion. I guess that makes sense. Heath Ledger was an inch taller than Christian Bale according to Google, but it also doesn't seem right.
My final score for Hot Toys DX33, the rooted hair version of Joker, is going to be 4 out of 5 stars. The sculpt on this figure is outstanding. Best mass market 1/6 scale sculpt of Heath Ledger's Joker. The figure is more screen accurate than the InArt version in terms of the fitting and coloring of the clothing. There are many fun accessories to choose from, and that light up base is a lot of fun too. However, there are some disappointments. For starters, the weathering on the coat is pretty awful. I was also disappointed by the lack of diorama pieces compared to DX11. I really missed that chair and that backdrop. Some of the soft goods lack in quality compared to InArt, and the wool hair feels very fragile compared to the job InArt did. These misgivings aside, this is a great figure. The stunning head sculpt helps you overlook any flaws. I would highly recommend that Heath Ledger fans pick this up or DX32 depending on their preference for the type of hair. That's my review, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and join my other social media pages. Until next time.